So as I mentioned, I spent a lot of time in the marketing industry previously to my life in the EV space, and I traveled the world as a marketing evangelist, went hundreds and hundreds of conferences. And one of the things that was always fascinating at industry conferences is there's usually one segment that's missing at the conference, and that's customers. Right? Oftentimes, these industry confabs, we talk to each other, right? So that's why I'm really excited about this next session with Ford and a couple of their customers. So we're all sitting here talking today, all of us experts and thought leaders and stuff, about what the customers do and don't know. In this next session, we're actually going to get to hear from a couple of Ford EV owners here in the market. So without further ado, let's bring up our next session. We've got Kristin, Jennifer, Matt, and Erica.
Okay. Well, next to me, very excited to have Jennifer Brace, Ford's Chief Futurist.
Yeah, hi.
So, do you have a crystal ball or not?
Oh, God, I wish, when I took the role, I thought it would come with a crystal ball.
A magic 8 ball,
but
at least.
I actually have one in my office that I occasionally use. But yes, I like to say I have the coolest title at the company, although somewhat misleading, because I will also tell you I can't actually predict the future. But instead what I say is we help people prepare for it. And we do that by tracking what we see happening around the world in what we call the STEEP categories. And that stands for social, technological, economic, environmental, and political. And you'll notice I did not say automotive. Because really what we're trying to do is understand what's happening at a higher level around the world to give us some glimpses into what might be the external environment that we have to operate within, whether we like it or not. And that as an automotive company, how can we be better prepared for a future that often feels uncertain?
So just give us, your job requires tons of research.
Yes.
Give us just a taste of what you're seeing as a futurist.
Mm-hmm. So certainly we do a ton of reading on my team, but we also, every year we run a global survey to try and understand what we're seeing from a consumer sentiment perspective. And you can find it at FordTrends.com, but it is a high-level perspective. Some of the things that we're seeing that are happening right now, it's a bit somber, I'll tell you, in that 68% of people are feeling overwhelmed by the changes that they see taking place in the world. It's a little rough, right, when you think about it that way.
Can be.
Yeah. But what we see is that people are looking to find opportunities where they can kind of get their little joy snacks, if you will, where they can, the things that they can own, they're leaning into those. So one of the ways that we see people leaning into it, they'll say that they're not going to kind of put off the things that they want today for a future that feels uncertain. And I think of it as this like carpe diem perspective of living in the moment and treating yourself when you can. We also find that, 86% of people globally said that they found joy in their cars, which, we sell as a bright spot in a dim global outlook.
I think cars bring a lot of joy.
Yeah.
Lots of joy. And that takes me to really, let's talk a little bit from the customer perspective. Erica, you have a Ford Mustang Mach-E.
Yes, I do.
What made you decide to buy that? And do you feel like an early adopter?
First off, yeah, I would definitely consider myself an early adopter. I purchased it in the 2021 when it first came out. What prompted me to buy it was this kind of coincidence. We were at the dealership looking for another car, and they happened to have the Mach-E on the lot, and we asked to take it for a test drive. And the moment I got behind the wheel, I was like, wow, this is such an impressive car. I love driving. I come from a family of racers, so I'm very used to being behind the wheel of a car that has a lot of speed and a lot of power, and that was just exactly how I felt about it. And then on top of it, I have a family. So I needed a car that can fit my lifestyle with my 2 kids and a tall husband. So for me, it just actually really fit really well with the things that I wanted, which was electric car, a safe vehicle, and a fast car.
What did you have an ICE vehicle before you went to the Mach-E?
No, this is actually my first Mach-E, my first EV experience, and so far it's been phenomenal, and I don't think I would own a gas car after this, just because this experience has been so positive. And being an early adopter, we know we've run through things like little bugs that are coming along, but I think Ford's been so receptive to the consumers. And me as a consumer, I can say, hey, I've run into this issue and I feel heard. So it's really nice to have that opportunity to actually have a connection with the dealerships and with Ford itself.
That's definitely important. What do your neighbors want to know when they see you driving by in this really cool, fast EV? What do they ask you?
Well, usually the first thing they want to know is, can I sit in it? Actually, it's very funny because where I live, there are 2 other Mustangs on our street. So when I pulled up in this, my neighbors immediately came out. They wanted to look at the car. They wanted to sit in it. One neighbor asked if his teenage son could take for a drive, and I went, no. But it was really fascinated. It's just every time I drive it anywhere, I'm at the grocery store, and people want to look at the car. They want to know more about it. They're like, what is this? I've never seen this car before. It's funny because I go to the grocery store and I go to put something in my trunk, and people are like, did you just put like a watermelon in your engine? And there's no engine here. So it's really kind of a cool thing to experience. It grabs a lot of attention from people who are not familiar with Mach-E and a lot of the EVs that are coming out.
Yeah, people still have a lot of questions. People are very curious to know what these EVs are all about, how they work, how they fit in your lifestyle. So Matt, can you add that you bought a Ford Lightning?
Mm-hmm.
What year is it?
I have a 2023 Ford Lightning.
Awesome. And what do your neighbors want to know about your Lightning?
Well, it's all the typical questions. What's your range like? How do you use it? What's your experience in owning it? Why did you buy it? Most recently, my neighbor across the street bought a Hyundai Ioniq 5 and knew nothing about it other than that it was electric. So when he got it, he came over to my house and knocked on the door and just said, how can I learn from you? Teach me. And so spent about an hour with him talking about charging, what he needed to do for infrastructure in his house and his garage, and just the overall kind of user understanding of how to use the vehicle.
How do you use your Lightning?
I use it for literally everything. It is our family vehicle. I've got a 4-month-old baby. I've got a 7-year-old son. And I am a custom home builder and a realtor. So it is our family hauler. We pull our camper with it. We pull our boat with it. I pull work trailers with it. I haul material with it. It does literally everything we need it to do.
Both of you, Eric and Matt, did you have any concerns before you bought this EV? Did you have any misgivings?
I mean, I think for me, I think it's pretty standard, range anxiety, right? That's most people are concerned about that. I'm lucky enough that I have solar on my house, so I have a charger at home, and so that gives me a great opportunity. And I take it everywhere. I mean, I've taken road trips in it. So I think the biggest thing at first is just getting used to making sure that I have enough to go where I need to go, and I know where to stop along the way. So that was really the only thing for me that was like, okay, I have to adapt to this new lifestyle of how do I charge my vehicle versus stopping at the gas station.
Right. And that's one thing people are trying to figure out how to get used to that. How about you, Matt?
I was a bit of an early adopter. This is my 3rd EV now, so we had a 2016 Tesla, a 2018 Tesla, and now the Lightning. So back in the early days, it was charging infrastructure, it was range anxiety. When I first got the car, it went in for just a quick service and they gave us a loaner, and we actually ran out of electricity and had to find a destination charger before we got home with it. So we got to learn a little bit of the hard way of some of the challenges and how to be proactive about dealing with it, which most of those issues are now gone with availability of charging infrastructure being much more readily available. But those are some of the initial worries.
Jen, what even as a futurist, how is this evolving then as people adapt and learn, as Erica and Matt have, about how to use their EV and how it fits into their life?
Yeah, so there's something that we track that we call the green paradox. And what this is like 80% of people globally saying, oh, I'm doing things or I want to be doing things to help the environment. But when you dig just a little bit deeper, more than half of them also say, well, I'm really only willing to make a change if the inconvenience to me is small or non-existent. And I feel like when we're talking to early adopters, you guys are willing to lean into that. But I feel like as we're moving into the early majority, it really is about, it needs to feel like a really easy choice. It needs to feel like that change is small or non-existent. One of the other things that comes to mind that we hear people say, that I love hearing your guys' perspective on, is that they're waiting to buy an EV until more of their friends or neighbors have it. And my guess is, it sounds like you guys are getting a lot of questions from friends and neighbors. So you are that voice in the community.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Seems like a lot of people are concerned about infrastructure, getting from place to place. How does that really play out in reality for the two of you? You want to start, Matt?
In reality, it's no different. In my daily use of the vehicle, usually about 100 miles of range is all I need. So from a daily perspective and a use perspective, it's no different than any other vehicle. The only time we have to do any little bit of planning is when it's a road trip, which for my family and our situation, less than once a year probably. So our use of the vehicle is exactly the same as any combustion engine would have been. It's no different.
So you just plug in when you get home?
Yep, plug in when I get home, charges 90% every single night, and off I go in the morning.
Okay, Erica?
Yeah, I mean, similar, charge every evening, or not every evening, every other evening. Most of my commuting is done within, about 30 to 40 mile radius. I do longer trips, San Antonio, Waco, those types of things. And I just plan. I'm just like, okay, I know where I'm going to stop. I'll just tap, kind of like get my car back up to 80%, and then I'm back on my way without much delay, which is great. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that if I was doing longer trips like across the country, I think the biggest thing is we plan for in advance. And one of the good things with Ford is that you can do that within the car itself. As you're driving, it tells you how much range you have and where you can charge and how long it will take you to go. So if I'm planning a longer trip, I can plan that out well in advance to make sure I'm ready. And also because I usually travel with my kids, prepare my kids for those stops along the way too, that we're going to be there for half an hour, and that's okay.
Some built-in rest stop.
Yes.
How do you plan your route?
Usually for me, I just take a look at where we're going. I try to find chargers, like I said, because I have my kids, that we're going to be able to make a stop that has something interesting that we can do in the meantime. So it's not necessarily dependent on, it has to be the closest to the interstate. Sometimes it's like, it's a random charger kind of off to the side, but there's a really nice park right there. So we can spend those 30 minutes at the park while we kind of charge up a little bit and then be on our way. Or like, hey, we know we're going to want to eat around this time, so let's just make the stop there where there's a charging station instead of going another half an hour down the road where there might not be. So it's just making those slight adjustments when I plan a trip.
Matt, you have a Lightning, which does truck things.
Mm-hmm.
And EV trucks are newer, of course, than EV sedans and small vehicles. What are you finding? Is there anything that's surprising to you about having an electric truck?
So I live in the Texas Hill Country. Like I said, I do tow a lot. We tow 7,000-pound camper, we got a 5,000-pound boat, and then various work trailers, various materials. My favorite part about it is obviously the torque and my ability to maintain speed up hills with it's effortless. I don't have to worry about downshifting, don't have to worry about the noise, don't have to worry about high RPMs and seeing a valve train come out of my hood or anything like that, But it's just been a fantastic work truck. It's done everything I've asked of it for.
What would you both say to someone who is curious, but they're skeptical about EVs?
So, yes, especially with my contractors, with a lot of the people in my area of Texas. We're relatively rural, so it's pickup trucks, a lot of towing trailers, a lot of stuff. And the skepticism always comes down to, well, you can't tow more than 150 miles. My question to that is always, well, how often do you actually do that? To me, it seems that a lot of people are kind of latching on to, I need this ability to do this one thing I'm going to do one time in my ownership of the vehicle. for me, it comes down to, look, it costs me 20 bucks my electricity to drive 1,000 miles. All of those fuel savings, all the maintenance savings, everything there, if I ever have to tow more than 150 miles, I'll go rent a truck and be well more covered in my cost of operation than I would have been having a combustion engine for the one time I'm going to tow a trailer 500 miles. So that's typically the way the conversation ends up going for me, because again, most of the people that end up asking me about it are already truck owners, and that's their usual objection.
Okay. Erica, how about you?
Yeah, and I think for me, it's like my first thought is, well, have you driven one? Have you actually gone on a test drive and tried it? Because if you haven't had the user experience of being behind the wheel of one of these vehicles, you won't know why so many people are enthusiastic about it. And I think a lot of people don't really understand. They see this big price tag at the beginning when they go to purchase a vehicle, and that scares them. And when you think about it in the long term, the overall cost of an EV in its lifetime is still less than it would be for a gas vehicle, because the maintenance is so much less. You know, the over-the-air updates that we receive are great because they don't have to go anywhere. It just happens while it's parked on my driveway. So there's a lot of maintenance going on behind the scene that I don't see, that I don't even have to think about and worry about. You know, and just not having to take my car to get an oil change or those types of things, just the regular tires, brakes, and those types of things. It's great because I don't have those maintenance costs that I would have with a gas vehicle. And I think a lot of people are deterred by that because they don't realize that that is a huge advantage.
There are more EV choices than ever. You could have picked lots of different vehicles, but you picked Fords. Tell me why you picked this specific vehicle over any of the others that you could have chosen.
So for me, there only was two options in what I was looking for, because I needed the truck for our lifestyle would change. Just had another kid, we've gotten into camping, like I said, so I needed something that could pull and something that could fit a lot of space in while fitting all the kids into the family. So I had the choice between the Rivian and the Ford, and I simply needed the space. I needed to be able to fit the car seats in there. Needed, Americans just sad, I needed a bunch of cup holders for all the various stuff and toys and everything that goes in there.
So many cup holders.
Have to have it. So when we started looking at all that, and the size of the front, just giving me the ability to keep the stroller up there while having tools up there and having the kids in the car, it just made the perfect sense, and it was the perfect vehicle for what our family needed.
Yeah, and for me, it was partially aesthetic. The look of the Mach-E is not like any other car that's on the road. And as well as the comfort of it on the inside. I'm tall, my husband's tall. We've owned a lot of vehicles and we just feel like we're driving like this. And I want to be able to be comfortable, and I have two kids in car seats in the back. They need to be able to be comfortable. And that was part of our test drive when we took the car out, was can we fit the stroller in the back? And can we fit the car seats in? And we took it home and we put everything in and it fit, and I was like, well, then we're buying the vehicle because it fit our lifestyle. It fit what we wanted, and aesthetically, I just love the look of the car. I mean, I couldn't be looking at that car every day, so.
Jen, talk a little bit about the feedback that you're getting from customers like Erica and Matt, and where you take that next.
Yeah, so I love hearing your stories, and I actually drive a Mach-E as well, and I would say that I like that I can park at my gas station and start every day with a full tank. But what we continue to see is that there's a ton of interest, right? The majority of people are still seeing EVs as the future. But we need to be supporting them in getting there and helping them along the way. I think it's still really important, in particular with where we're at now, to offer a full spectrum and a lineup so that we can support our customers with wherever they're at on their journey. But there's so much power in getting to drive the vehicle, because it does feel different, and it immediately feels fun, it is quiet, and it's so impactful to get people behind the wheel. So I think a lot of it is helping to continue to support our consumers with where they're at, continuing to get them butts in seats, quite frankly. Getting them behind the wheel is super helpful, but also just recognizing that there are still things that we are continuing to work through, right? In terms of having them feel confident in their choices, whether it's from infrastructure or getting to hear personal stories from people that they know and trust within their community. So I think it's just all about continuing to support that journey as we move forward.
Okay, last question. What has been a pleasant surprise about your ownership journey of your EVs?
I mean, for me, the pleasant surprise is just, I just want to drive my car. Like, I mean, I've had many vehicles in my lifetime, and I mean, you own like nice sports cars, but for some reason, I just want to be behind this car all the time. I love just going on little road trips, even if it's just to the grocery store to get home, driving through the hills where I live, and it's been so surprising how like I can be so in love with the car, but I've had all these other vehicles in my life, but this is just the one that I'm so attached to.
For me, it's been the overall kind of experience, but not necessarily just while driving. It's how the EV experience has kind of integrated its way into my entire life. It's now a part of my phone. It's a part of my home ecosystem. It's a part of our daily routine. It's also translated into kind of how we manage the electricity in our home and manage consumption of everything, because I now measure that for costs. You know, it's self-employed, and everything for me is cost of ownership. So it's just been fascinating to me how it's gone from a vehicle that I just kept in the garage and my interaction with it was washing it and oil changes, to now utilizing it, monitoring it, starting it from my phone, starting it from my home, and how it's worked its way into every facet of our life.
Jen, Erica, Matt, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.